When I was in high school, I knew very little English. I could understand only very simple sentences, and my vocabulary was extremely limited. But I had always been fascinated by English. One day, I went to a bookstore because I wanted to buy a notebook. While I was looking around, I noticed some English storybooks. They were graded readers, and the easiest level available in that bookstore was Stage 2. There was no Stage 1. I knew Stage 2 might be a little difficult for me, but because I loved English, I decided to try it. I bought one of the books, went home, and started reading. It was challenging. I had to use the dictionary I had bought earlier again and again. I didn't know many words, and I couldn't fully understand some sentences. But I kept going. The next day, I went back to the same bookstore and bought another Stage 2 story. I came home and read it. The next day, I did the same thing, and then again the next day. On the fourth day, I had an idea. I thought to myself, I remember having a really hard time understanding the story I read on the first day. Maybe I should read it again. So I picked up that first book and started reading. And then something amazing happened. It felt like I was reading a completely different story. The words hadn't changed, the sentences hadn't changed, the book hadn't changed. I had changed. My comprehension was much better than it had been just a few days earlier. I understood sentences that had seemed confusing before. I could follow the story more easily, and I recognized words that I had struggled with only a few days earlier. I went back and reread the other stories too. Again, I could clearly feel the difference. That was the moment I discovered one of the most important lessons of my English learning journey. You don't always notice your progress while you're making it. Sometimes you only realize how far you've come when you look back. That experience motivated me to keep reading. I continued working my way through graded readers, gradually moving from Stage 2 to higher and more advanced levels, step by step. Over time, I read around 100 books, progressing from Stage 2 to advanced level stories. I started as a beginner who struggled to understand simple English stories and constantly needed a dictionary. But little by little, page by page, story by story, my vocabulary and reading comprehension grew stronger. I didn't learn English overnight. I didn't have a magic method. I simply kept reading. And now, 20 years later, I am still reading in English. Looking back, I realized that the most important thing wasn't the first book itself. It was the decision to keep going, even when I didn't understand everything. So if you're learning English and you feel like you're not improving, don't give up. You don't have to understand every word. You don't have to be perfect. And you don't have to wait until you're ready. Start with something you can mostly understand. Challenge yourself a little and keep moving forward. Read the same story again. You might be surprised by how much more you understand the second time. Because sometimes the book hasn't changed. You have. Progress can be almost invisible from one day to the next, but incredibly powerful over months and years. You don't need to become fluent tomorrow. You just need to read the next page, then the next story, then the next book. Keep reading, keep learning, keep going. One day, you'll look back and realize that the person who once struggled with simple English sentences has become someone who can understand an entire world in another language. Your journey may start with one difficult page, but that page could be the beginning of something that changes your life.